Hey, let's start the show.
It's April 16th, 2015. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. I'm Will Smith, seated directly to my left, adjusting his microphone boom arm. Norman Chan.
That's me. That's me.
Is that your Mario?
That was Mario, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a me, Norman.
It's a me.
I'm going to win.
Jeremy Williams joining us as usual.
Hello?
This is a fetching t-shirt you're wearing. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I've worn this on the podcast before. In fact, I wore it in January. Norm just sent me a link to a January podcast.
You were
Wow.
the same shirt?
So, yeah.
Throwback.
It's appropriate for this week because as this podcast is coming out, as people are listening to this right now, I bet major Star Wars news is breaking.
You think? Oh, because Celebration.
Star Wars Celebration is happening Thursday morning. If you're on your commute right now, J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy are down in Anaheim, Jotunheim, California, right now, making some pretty big announcements.
Are you there?
I'm on my way there.
Are you flying or driving this
I
time?
am driving.
Ooh.
So I am en route.
Are you and the special lady friend going to this one?
I'm driving, making the road trip.
Okay.
That's awesome.
This has been road trip season or trip season for us. Joey and I went to Seattle last weekend, and the SCAA, so longtime tested listeners will know that the SCAA is the Specialty Coffee Association of America, and they have an annual trade show.
What's the name of the trade show? It's so stupid.
It's the event.
That's what they call it. SCAA's The Event
2015 in Seattle. So this is the last time it's in Seattle for a little while. It moves around to places that are important to coffee culture. So the first year we went, it was in Houston, which is where the vast majority of coffee from South America is imported into the United States. Then it was in Portland, then it was in Boston, then it was back in Seattle for a couple of years. It's a super, if you like coffee, it is an amazing event because not only is it like the trade show where you go to buy coffee machines and stuff like that, both consumer and professional, it's also where the baristas, the best baristas in the world come and they're showing off for each other.
Like they show off their frothing technique or they make coffee?
Well, so the thing about especially espresso drinks, but also brewed coffee is that there's a really high skill ceiling. So, like, you can go into Starbucks and the automated machine will make you an okay cup of coffee, right? Yep. But if you go to, say, Sight Glass or 4Barrel and you get an espresso, then they'll make you an espresso that tastes like it has, like, marshmallow stuff going. Like, you get a lot more complexity of flavor, and I'm trying to figure out how to say this without sounding like an asshole, but I'm just going to go ahead. Like, they use a much higher quality coffee as a general rule. And then they also are much more precise about the preparation so that you end up with something that is very repeatable and is a unique kind of experience.
Mm-hmm. And do they have tastings where you can just get a sample of
Oh, yeah.
And do people drink it or do they spit it out so they don't get the caffeine buzz?
No, you drink it.
You swallow.
Your enzymes start processing that as soon as it's in your mouth. I mean, you spitting it out.
Yeah.
People do that. Also, what's it called?
Like a cupping.
Cupping.
A spittoon.
Cupping. No, those are process.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Like a wine tasting.
Right.
Well, the cupping is about finding faults in a freshly roasted bean, so you kind of sort the good coffee and the bad coffee separately. So at this place, people are showing off their machines, people are showing off their coffee, people are showing off their grinders, their brewers, all the different stuff that you can use. But most of the time, you don't get like an 8-ounce cup of coffee. You get a little, thimbleful, basically. So you have a couple of sips, maybe three.
Do you cleanse your palate between tastes? Because that's a lot of flavor.
There's usually water. So like a lot of people will have like a sparkling water, like Pellegrino or something there. Generally, if you let it sit for a minute or two, it's enough. It's not like you're drinking wine. You have a lot of complex esters and stuff. The upshot is you drink a lot of coffee at the SCAA. Yeah. And it is, in many cases, the best coffee you'll have all year. Like,
oh, my God.
Norm, you're not a super coffee fan.
It's great coffee, but I don't think, like, you're not prepared It's like being a young high schooler drinking your first beer,
where it's all you can drink. Yeah,
and
you're not prepared for what?
Prepared for the buzz, the caffeine buzz afterward. Like your body is tingly throughout for hours.
So Joey and I
need protein.
Yeah, Joey and I were there on Saturday, and you basically have to drink water all day, and then also at the end of the night go eat an enormous meal to kind of help absorb some of that and offset it. And usually, like we had some cocktails. It was like I'm not going to be able to sleep if I don't have at least a few bourbons tonight. So it's all about riding the wave. But Seattle was fun. SCA is always good. We'll have video for that stuff coming up in the next few weeks on the site. I also went to Starbucks' Reserve Roastery and Tasting Room, which is a new thing that they're doing. They're getting into high-end specialty coffee. They have some super premium coffees that they're buying from around the world in massive lots by the high-end specialty, what the coffee people call third wave specialty coffee, but that means stuff like Intelligentsia and Stumptown and Ritual and Four Barrel and the places that we talk about. And they've built a small lot roastery that's automated according to all the Starbucks processes and the NSF processes that handle how food safety stuff works. So basically, they built this facility that they dump green beans into a hole in the ground, the raw, uncooked coffee beans. They go through the roasting process there. It's all computer controlled. There's conveyor belts and all this stuff. And then at the end, it gets dumped either into the bagging machine or into a big tub over the coffee bar in this roastery. It's in Capitol Hill in Seattle at on Pine Street someplace. It's up the hill someplace from the convention center.
The mothership.
It's not the mothership. It's the other end of Pine from the mothership. So now there's two tourist coffee destinations for Starbucks in Seattle. One is this roastery, which is for the high end people who actually like if you want a frappuccino, it's not the place for you. The other end of the street is the original Starbucks, which is totally the place to get a frappuccino if that's what you're into.
And a vintage mug.
Exactly.
Logo mug.
The original logo. So the roastery is about bringing out high-end coffees for Starbucks. They're selling the coffee only in certain stores. You get to actually see how the roasting and all that stuff works, which is kind of neat. You normally don't get to see that. And they'll sell you beans that are roasted that day and tell you, hey, don't use these for 3 days because they need to outgas and all that stuff. So if you want to go and learn more about coffee, it's a great place to go and sit down and talk to a barista and learn about coffee. When we were there, they had, I think, 5 different coffees that were available for you to have brewed in a handful of different ways, ranging from high-end siphon filters and traditional pour overs, French presses, stuff like that. They have clovers there, lots of clover machines, which is an early immersion, high-end immersion brewer that Starbucks bought. And then you can also make espresso drinks with most of the stuff. And they hand you these neat little cards that tell you about the coffee, and it's very nice. It was really neat. It was not at all what I was expecting from Starbucks. So I think next time we go to Seattle, we'll probably do a stop there and maybe show how green coffee beans get turned into the stuff that ends up in your cup.
Cool.
A lot of cool stuff in Seattle.
It was a cool stop. And then we did some other food stuff that we'll talk about later when it's closer to being on the site. But this is a big entertainment weekend.
It was a big everything weekend. Holy crap. We have a lot to cover.
Mad Men, Game of Thrones is back.
Game of Thrones, Veep, Silicon Valley.
I haven't watched any of those yet.
It's all good.
I'm out of the loop.
It's all good.
Did HBO Go and HBO Now survive?
HBO Go and HBO Now, from all reports, I did not watch on either of those services, survived and did well. What did not work well for HBO is that the first 5 episodes of Game of Thrones, the screeners that were sent to press, were leaked online, I think the day before the season premiere. And HBO was super unhappy about that.
I can only imagine.
Now, if they were in the Netflix model, it wouldn't really matter. But because they're not in the Netflix model, and Game of Thrones is one of the most pirated shows ever.
Usually after it's aired.
Usually after it's aired, and HBO does care about ratings. So I don't know how it actually affects it. There's also, I think, a statement from HBO about Periscope, that app that
I saw that.
It's the kids are using.
What are you eating?
I have a cough drop. I'm sorry. I have a cold.
Very good.
I apologize in advance. I'm trying to keep it under my tongue where it won't hit my teeth, but it keeps hitting my teeth.
I don't know if we want to dovetail or segue or
Do you want to talk about Periscope?
tangent into a Periscope. Have you guys Periscope?
I tried Meerkat, but Periscope has killed Meerkat now.
Periscope, Meerkat. This is like the new. Is this the new Snapchat?
No, it's maybe, I don't know.
Well, basically,
I'm too old to understand this
From
stuff.
what I understand, and from someone who's only observed it from people tweeting about it and not actually having used it. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's live streaming from your phone.
That is exactly it.
It's live streaming from your phone, and it seems like the big innovation.
I'm going to Periscope this right now.
Okay, the big innovation is not only does it tie directly to all your social feeds, so it pushes out. So much like
Just Twitter
and what Ustream did in terms of like getting people to watch.
Yeah.
This is easy to watch for people to click from Twitter a link to watch, and also easy for people to watch on their phone because it encourages people to shoot in the portrait position, and people watch in the portrait position.
Oh my gosh, really?
Are these things true?
I'm signing up. I haven't used Periscope.
This is like my old man. What's the thing that people are using? Kids are using today.
If they've given into the vertical video, I am not in favor of this.
So,
Don't be such an old grump.
as someone would say, I have thoughts. I think I've turned around with the vertical video thing.
Oh my goodness.
I think that vertical video, while it's not like a preferred format for me, I would still shoot. I think what you want to think about is what's the reason that we're against vertical video. I think it ties in the reason that we were against people shooting photos with their iPads is the medium that you're going to view the picture on.
Yeah, the display device. And we think that, because the display device for watching video is either a computer monitor or traditionally TV, 16:9 TV.
We're Periscoping right now.
Vertical video has no place in that. I don't think. I know people watch YouTube on their big TVs, but I don't think people watch this type of live stream Periscoping. The thing that's meant to be viewed on the phone.
Well, they don't watch it because it's vertical.
Also, the way the Periscope system is set up, one of the reasons it's popular is that it's on demand. It's like it only matters to watch it when it's live. So it's not like appointment viewing.
Yeah, but why does everyone who's watching it have to be on the phone? That doesn't make any sense.
That's
because
where
you get a
the most
notification.
propagation.
Because you get a notification, then you open up your phone.
It's like why Instagram, while there is a website, but they hesitated on putting that for a long time because one of the reasons the way it propagates, the way it's successful is because people are viewing that content on a mobile device, on the phone. Now it's true the mobile device could mean a tablet or a phone, and tablets do have different aspect ratios. The Apple tablets have different aspect ratios than phones, but the convenience of holding the phone the way you normally hold the phone and read Twitter, which is portrait, and watching that video and interacting with that video in that orientation, I think is one of the reasons for its success. It makes it easier for people to watch that video. When I watch a YouTube video now, I'm almost frustrated that I have to do the turn.
Really?
Because my phone, like I'm scrolling through YouTube and I'm clicking a video, and if I play it in portrait, of course it's cropped and it's just at the top of the screen, and I get the crappy comments in the bottom.
You don't have to rotate it. You could watch it scaled down. The problem is people who try to watch things on a desktop have no option.
And so that's the question, really. When the desktop is the most malleable format, right, with different size screens, different aspect ratios, different pixel densities, for full screen, you're right. It's still going to be widescreen video, landscape. That's going to be your full screen experience. But I think fewer and fewer people are watching things on desktop full screen and are watching things in Windows. So if you think about...
So that's the trend, right? The trend is that they're saying in the next 30 years, sideways viewing on a desktop is going to basically go away, and we're going to just use phones for literally everything.
Or it's going to be embedded in the desktop. It's going to be like when you scroll down a New York Times story. I like that they've experimented with animated videos, short animated clips that are vertical and not necessarily horizontal in their layouts. There's a lot. I mean, it's one way to solve the column white space problem is to put animated content there.
Why are TVs horizontal? Because of movies?
TV's horizontal because of movies,
and movies are horizontal because a decision that Thomas Edison made 150 years ago.
That trickles from that. There's a great Vimeo video, I think like a no film school thing, explaining all about the aspect ratio stuff. But
it's because our
View. Our field of view is
because our eyes are sideways.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's primarily it.
Our field of view is horizontal, more horizontal than vertical.
But if we're talking about videos primarily shot and viewed on a mobile phone, I don't know why, what's the inherent, I mean, I guess you talk about it from a framing perspective.
I buy your argument if it's like a text, because I can now shoot video as a text, I think, and then I can just instantly send it to somebody.
Yes.
And that appears in their SMS list.
Or you think about FaceTime.
That makes sense to me.
Do you do FaceTime in portrait or landscape?
Almost always landscape.
It depends. I actually respect the other person's device.
That's my parents don't care.
Yeah.
So I flip to match them, and they're almost always landscape.
But you think about heads. If you're doing FaceTime, your head is more.
It's a better
portrait. Portrait is.
If you're in a group, though, you want to.
Of course, yeah,
wide.
yes.
on a 16:9 device, it's better portrait. On the more 4:3 iPad, it's better landscape. Like that's the.
And it'll also depend on the camera and the field of view on the camera. From a cinematography and photography standpoint, I don't know about what type of stories you could tell. I mean, if shooting in portrait, the aspect ratio of that limits the type of storytelling you could tell. Obviously, it's different. If you think about the big Apple ads that they're the shot with iPhone stuff, a lot of that stuff is like super tall and they're beautiful, and it's just thinking outside the constraints of traditional, 4:3, 16:9.
I mean, and just to be clear, at the rate at which the resolution of the sensors is increasing, there's nothing to say that in 2 years we're not just going to have phones that shoot landscape when you're holding the phone in portrait, right? Like, there's no reason that if you have a 20 megapixel sensor on a phone, it should be able to shoot landscape. It should be able to shoot whichever orientation you want, regardless of the orientation of the actual sensor.
Yeah.
And the reason,
because to make a 1080p video, you're taking a subset of pixels.
And the reason you shoot landscape is because the viewfinder,
right,
the quote unquote the display screen, you want that to be maximized. You want to fill that screen up
so that you have more information,
more representation, best representation of what you're actually shooting. But yeah, I could see that being a feature in a phone in the future where you're shooting a widescreen video, but your information on your screen is only is portrait. Embrace the future, Jeremy.
Well, if that is the future, I don't know if I want to be a part of it.
Well, just I don't think it'll be like the dominant form.
So, do you think this is part of the killer app of Periscope, though? That's what they're doing right.
No, I think that Periscope is just a fad.
It's just a fad.
Yeah,
that's what I thought about Twitter.
It's like Vine. I mean, in a lot of ways, Vine has turned out to be incredibly useful as an information sharing utility. Like, people catch people getting shot and beaten and stuff like that on news. You share something charming that your child does. It's like Instagram. It is a way to visually share information quickly and easily from phones.
And you think is Vine? Vine is
both are Twitter. Periscope and Vine are both Twitter.
Right, but is that 1:1 or is that elongated? I haven't used Vine.
Vine is square.
Yeah, Vine, Instagram are square, and so there's your mama bear, compromise, which I think I know people love the square pictures, and that's built into your camera apps now. But I think from framing perspective, the square limits you so much.
Better to have anything than nothing.
Album art designers didn't think that, Norm.
They were just taking photos.
They were producing art.
Yeah, it's true.
So speaking of art, Furious 7 came out this week.
Oh boy!
Wait, what? $800 million?
It made I believe 149 for the 3-day, which did include Thursdays. It is currently fast approaching $1 billion worldwide.
That's nuts.
So Furious approaching $1 billion.
250 domestic right now for the second weekend, with pretty steep but not dramatic drop.
You've watched those movies, right, Norm?
I've watched all of them.
Have you watched those movies, Jeremy?
Not one of them.
Oh, they're so good.
I'm a real curmudgeon this podcast.
So, regardless of, and the reason I want to talk about Furious 7 isn't just because of the love of that series, and I think it's a really fun series.
It's gotten amazing
to indulge in, and it is an indulgent piece of entertainment. But it's the CG element that's in this that I want to talk about. As everyone knows,
did you see it, Norm?
I saw it.
Okay,
in theaters, big screen.
Did you go to IMAX or T-Box?
Did not do IMAX. Did the Century Theater XD, big.
Okay,
their overpriced one.
Yeah. This is just to be clear, if you're going to go see this movie, this is a franchise to splurge on your theater experience. Like if there's a D-Box option, I don't think you'll be disappointed by the Fast and the Furious movie with D-Box.
And you should also watch the movies before it.
At least 4 and 5, 6.
4, 5, 6 for sure.
Yeah.
Paul Walker, unfortunately, of course, everyone knows, passed away. Terrible car accident 2 years ago. They halted production, rewrote it, but they didn't want to scrap the movie. They got his brothers to do stand-ins, and then they paid Weta, I believe, a ton of money, very secretive process, to do a digital overlay.
Really?
On the stand-ins.
On the faces?
On the faces. And many of the reviews that came out when this movie came out said that it was indistinguishable. And I would say that in terms of a digital face, it is one of the best digital faces I've ever seen. It is not dead-eyed young Jeff Bridges from Tron.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is not. What other big CG character movies?
The first one of that I remember seeing was the little girl in Jurassic Park when she's dangling up over 30 feet, 40 feet over the floor.
The first Jurassic Park?
In the very first Jurassic Park, the at the end of the movie when the Tyrannosaurus comes through and knocks the Tyrannosaurus skeleton and they dangle down from that catwalk, the stunt woman who's actually doing the stunt looks up and you can see her face. So they just CG'd the girl's face over it. But it was maybe like 4 frames. And it's one of those things that like didn't look bad in the theater, but didn't look bad on VHS. But when you got the DVD release, you're like, oh, that's bad.
I mean, the face grafting, CG face grafting, has been done a ton of times.
The Matrix Reloaded, the second Matrix movie, the fight with the Million Agent Smiths, is a terrible example of like bad CG.
They've got cast a ton of actors, martial art actors, and put his face on them. I think that one isn't super bad, and it's very different when you talk about that movie and this movie, because for Matrix they actually put Hugo Weaving, he acted out all those scenes. They shot them separately and then they imposed.
That's right.
So they had the real reference. When we're talking about a purely CG created facial animation, for example, Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Terminator Salvation movie, they got a different Austrian bodybuilder and just grafted a CG young Arnold face on it when when Christian Bale fights him.
Was it important that he was Austrian?
No, but I think they just found someone who's similar build. I thought that was terrible. From the trailer, the new Terminator trailer, not the super spoiler one, even it's the first trailer where it shows a kind of young Arnold CG face. I think that looks terrible.
Yeah.
This Paul Walker.
Traditionally, this technology has been terrible.
Has been limited because the facial animation, they can't, those characters rarely talk. You can see, like Jeff Bridges, the sheen, the lighting isn't right, and they're not acting, right? You're not asking the CG character to do acting like you would a creature like the Golem, like Gollum in Lord of the Rings, where the Golem creature is more convincing, even though clearly CG, because there's a performance there.
Yeah.
Here there is a performance, and it's supposed to be photorealistic, and it's supposed to represent a real person, and juxtaposed between shots of the actual person shot before he died. I think they get 80% of the way there. You can definitely tell when it's the CG face, not because of the poor animation or the poor lighting, but because of the compositing. There's a light halo around his face where you can tell that they blended him into the scene. But that character talks, acts, and the voice sounds just like him.
It's hard to do. It's hard anytime. Like, it's much easier to make Gollum a thing that looks kind of human but not really than it is to make a human. That's the lesson, right? Because Gollum looked really good 15 years ago, 10 years ago, I guess.
And 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Even better.
Do you think people who go into this blind, who don't know that this actor passed away, won't know the difference?
I think so.
They'll just think, oh, yeah, he was good.
Yeah. Yep. Which is a feat of its own.
Yeah.
But for anyone who's followed the production and goes in and maybe, subconsciously looking for it, there are moments, one-on-one moments, where it really feels ghoulish, where it feels like Vin Diesel is having a heart-to-heart with a ghost.
Weird.
Yeah. Still worth watching.
I haven't gone to see the movie yet. It's on my list for the weekend, but I watched the cold opens for the last 3 or 4 Fast and the Furious movies. Those are like the one for the fourth movie, Fast and Furious, where they're going down this hill in Venezuela and they're stealing a gas truck is it's an unbelievable piece
Sounds
of
like a Bond open.
It's a little Bond openings seem kind of staid in comparison.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, these are movies that are about racing cars and driving fast and doing incredibly dangerous stunts. And yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay.
You should watch them.
I plan to. It's a big commitment.
You can skip a couple of them. A couple of them are real bad. Anyway, we've had this conversation before, I feel like, even on the podcast. Daredevil also came out on Netflix this weekend, last weekend? Last week?
Late last week on Friday.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of affinity. Like, my knowledge of Daredevil is basically Frank Miller's Born Again series and that horrible Ben Affleck movie.
Did you see that?
The Ben Affleck movie?
Yeah.
I saw it in theaters.
Really?
I saw it in
Valentine's
theaters.
Day.
I never saw it. I thought the trailer looked bad enough.
It was.
Kevin Smith was in that movie. So is Joey Pants.
What was Kevin Smith in the movie?
Kevin Smith was
Was he a hacker?
No, he was a mortician.
Is it like a cameo or did he have an actual role?
He had a line. Definitely had a line.
Wow.
Is that movie generally despised among
Yes.
Marvel fans?
Yes, absolutely. It's a Fox movie, and Fox movies are questionable, and it was also directed not particularly well.
Yeah.
By the same director who did Ghost Rider
Who
afterward.
played Kingpin in that? Was it?
It was Michael Clark Duncan.
Oh, right. Right.
You're good, Norm. I thought that. Have you guys seen Daredevil on Netflix?
I am
not
on
yet.
episode 10
Oh,
right now.
goodness. Wow. I finished episode 3 last night.
It's fantastic.
I agree with you. I'm hooked. I think it's great.
Daredevil as a character he's been Marvel's Batman.
Yeah.
A brooding guy whose parents,
I thought
dad
Moon Knight
died.
was
But he does-
Marvel's Batman.
In terms of billionaire, yes, but in terms of actual, protecting his city, being a man of the people, he's Marvel's Batman.
I don't know,
with
though.
special powers.
That's the thing, though. He
with
has
special powers, and not a billionaire, so that kind of balances out.
Right.
His character traits are he is a big. He's really he's Catholic, really Catholic.
I haven't gotten that.
Explain.
He being
Does
confessions.
he give last rites to people?
No, but he goes for confession. I mean, his character is the devil.
He's a stone cold killer, right?
No, he's not a killer.
Oh, he's not a killer?
Not a killer. His morality is a big thing. So he's like Batman, he won't kill. And the big conflict in his character is their day as a lawyer. And so he upholds the law during the day and he breaks it at night.
Wait, he's both sides of law and order.
He's
the law
of the
side?
day and the order side.
Oh.
I went into this
Compelling.
blind. I didn't know a thing about Daredevil. What? No, I keep making these puns. I didn't mean to make that pun. I apologize. But I didn't know, honestly, a thing. Look, I wasn't even sure that he was blind. So I went into it, and I learned that he lost his sight in an accident when he was a kid. And he some nuclear waste or some sort of radioactive material went in his eyes, and it gave him this extrasensory perception where he can now almost sense where the things are around him even better than if he had sight.
Yes, because he has better hearing, touch, he can detect atmospheric changes. He can feel the words off of a printed page.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool. So everything that sucked about John Wick, this movie got right.
Huh.
There's just as much fighting practically. There's almost as many fight scenes, but it's all hand to hand. It's all, martial arts.
And he takes punches.
Yeah, and it's like real fighting. It's not just like shooting weapons, which I find
Passe.
dull.
The choreography is amazing. He's in costume. He's in a black mask costume, which is from the comics for most of the first few episodes, at least. I won't say much afterward, but the directing where they switch between who's clearly not Charlie Cox, I think is the name of the actor, and the stuntman is seamless, but he looks like he's fit for the role.
Yeah.
And the fights are gritty where he does not. It's not sure that he'll always win.
It's really gruesome, some of the stuff that happens in the fights. There's one that has received a ton of press, which is this one shot at the end of episode 2. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen any of it.
Well, no, it was a clip that they released to get some press, and I don't know how long it is. It's long. I wouldn't say it's like
it's about
4 or 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah.
And it's an amazing shot. And that's where it turns out you can actually tell when I guess you can't tell, but you can be explained where the cuts happen when
the stuntman comes in.
The actor turns into to the stuntman.
Right, but it's a single shot.
Yeah, but he'll go off camera like into a room and then come back and it's a different guy. But you're not supposed to know that.
There's some. I mean, from a storytelling perspective, it being a TV show, it being a Netflix TV show where they can.
Well, they can do what they want.
They can do what they want, and it feels like, a true detective style. They know they hit for the first season, this 13 episodes. They know the story they wanted to tell, and they need people to watch. It's so serialized. It's not like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where they had to get people to jump in episode 3 or jump in episode 4 because it aired once a week. All 13 episodes out at once, and they could tell this really nice, cohesive, nicely paced story.
And they can make it with a reasonable budget because there is not a ton of special effects. It's not Iron Man, so it's really just about editing. So you get you see his superpower through sound changes in the edit. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I was going to sit down and watch it, and I asked Gina, and she was like, "Yeah, I'd totally watch that." I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, we'll watch it together then."
Fantastic. You got to watch the first 2 or 3 episodes in one sitting to really kick into it.
Realistically, okay.
2 episodes.
You don't even see the bad guy until that point.
This was a brutal TV. Like we had Veep and Silicon Valley. We had a Mad Men episode. Like our TV, we're backed up on TV, something fierce. And then GTA came out last night before last night, whenever. Tuesday.
Yeah, well, it came out Monday for some reason, like late.
Yeah, Monday night. I sat down for my computer, fired that up, and was like, 60 frames a second GTA at crazy high resolution. This looks pretty good.
I can't get 60 FPS.
Are you
really?
Do you think you'll play through again?
I haven't played it.
That's a major commitment, but boy, that's a good game.
You beat it already?
On PS4.
Oh, okay. I waited for PC.
Oh, I played it 2 years ago on the 360, but I didn't finish it.
I forgot that it was a 360 game.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was PS3 I played it on.
Yeah. I'm thinking I'm going to push through.
It
I don't know, maybe.
So good. I'm playing at 4K, everything maxed out.
Oh my gosh.
And
I bet you're not getting 60.
I do have AA turned off, but it's really like the cutscenes.
Are you playing first person?
I don't like the first person.
I didn't like the first person mode either. I found it a little difficult.
Yeah,
like
the frame rates are worse, and also there's a lot of weird juddering. I know there's Oculus, not official support, but people have the Vorpex people have made it compatible, so you can pay $40.
The problem I had with the first person is that the mouse control is too juddery. Like I find it. Like I think it's rendering ahead frames or something like that because it's too floaty.
Stapleton said it felt like it was made for mouse and keyboard when you went in first-person mode.
For shooting?
Which surprises me because he's a hardcore PC guy.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't even tried mouse and keyboard yet. I did try first-person, but still with a gamepad.
I think it's more about when you're walking around, less the mouse moving, because aiming with a mouse in first-person is kind of similar, honestly, to aiming with third-person. But when you're actually walking around, the head bob and it feels like you're gliding more than you're actually walking. But that world is beautiful.
Totally.
And it streams so quickly. There's like no loading at all.
The only time you load is when you switch from one character to another. And only then if you're far away. I sat down and intended to just fire it up and see what it looked like and play through the tutorial and then ended up playing until, I'd unlocked the first 2 characters and it's a good game.
Who's the second character?
Michael.
Right.
Well, you start with
Michael in the tutorial, and then you get Lamar, and then you go back to Michael.
Not
again.
Lamar, Franklin.
Franklin. Lamar's my favorite character in the game. I think
the employee of the month.
Yeah, that stuff's all good. It's so for me that game. Playing it on 360, from what I remember on the 360, that was the first time I played a GTA game that I was like, okay, there's actually good dialogue. It's well written.
Yeah.
It's not just a bunch of gangster movie cliches.
And you don't have to play 10 hours to get to the good part.
Right. It's not a lot of the errand stuff that you saw in GTA 4.
Hold on, have you gotten to the first heist yet?
No.
Oh, that's so good. You're in for a treat. I can't wait to hear how this goes. There was a problem with GTA 5 on PC. If you had a non-letter or number character in your username,
your Windows
username just doesn't work. It's such a they sold so many copies of this game, and it's such a widespread. So just to be clear, this means a dash or a period. An underscore.
You can't have underscores, I believe, when you're Windows login.
Okay, but you can have dashes.
Yes, which a lot of people do.
Yeah. So it has to do with the path, the profile path. It's such a problem that Steam posted. Anybody who bought the game gets a Steam news update that says, "Hey, we saw that you have GTA 5. If you're having problems, you might want to look at this page because it tells you how to fix it. Rockstar has a patch incoming as well. Sorry for the inconvenience. If you'd like a refund, here's how to do that. You can press the automated button and it'll just happen."
It wasn't much of a fix. It's a real workaround where you have to create a new user account, a new administrator account.
Fuck that.
With a proper username.
Proper username.
A Grand Theft Auto sanctioned username.
I don't know how that kind of stuff gets past Q&A. That's amazing. If you work in Q&A and would like to tell us how something like that gets through, we'd love to know.
Oh man,
Well, and then Mortal Kombat came out at the same night, and it has even worse problems. Because I didn't look at it last night, but the first night and then end of day yesterday too. I did look at it last night. End of day yesterday. Basically, they're doing the thing where you stream the game and can play it while it goes. Steam is adding that as a feature, and this, I think, is the first game that uses that.
Onto what service?
On Steam. So
Steam has a video streaming service?
No, it's not video streaming. It's that you download enough of the game to get started, just like the Xbox One and the PS4, and then it streams the rest of the game in the background behind you. So
you don't need all those pack files.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the Mortal Kombat problem is that it wasn't streaming the other stuff in. So you download 3 or 4 gigs. Also, we should mention GTA 5 on the PC is like a 60 gig download.
62 gig download.
Which is bananas.
Yep.
So Mortal Kombat, you're supposed to launch the game and it's supposed to start downloading the stuff you need to play after you get that first 4 gigs. That was what was preloaded, but it didn't work for anybody, it seems like, or very few people. When I hit the button to play, you get in, you see the menu. The menu works for like a second, and then you go up to play game, or there's only 2 options that are allowed, and when you click them, it just crashes the desktop because the files aren't there.
Yeah.
So presumably they're working on that too. I don't know. It's
presumably
funny that both of those games launched on the same day. It's interesting because this is the first Mortal Kombat that was day and date on PC. Usually there's a little bit of a lag. Same thing for Injustice. So, anyway.
Those fatalities.
Dude, the whole game. Brutal. The whole game. Where do we go next? I have never seen brutality like that in the game before.
Did you not play in Final Mortal Kombat 9?
No. It can't be.
All that X-ray stuff was in there.
9 has the X-ray stuff, but the X-ray stuff here is way more brutal. And actual fatalities here, super brutal. Like holes in guts, tearing people, actually cutting them in half, faces being slit off. I watched the whole 7-minute video online, compilation.
Yeah.
Did not feel good afterward.
No.
I just wonder what's next? What can we possibly do? Besides some sort of sensor vision, where
sensor vision VR.
It's virtual reality.
Once you see it in the first person, it's even more visceral.
You get the fountain of blood sprays around. You have to wipe your goggles off.
That's it.
Yeah. Hit the goggle wipe button.
The Jello.
Yeah.
The jelly.
By the way, you mentioned that they got Oculus working in GTA 5. It's not like that sounds so amazing, right? Yeah. The first thing I did was I went into GTA 5 and I looked for a hidden, like maybe Oculus threw this in there, maybe it's at the bottom of the advanced menu, but it's not in there. So what I guess Vorpix does, unfortunately, is it emulates VR using mouse look. Mm-hmm. So it's not 1-to-1. Like if you turn your head, it moves the mouse.
And you need field of view changes.
It accelerates too fast, and the field of view is not right.
Did you try it?
No, but I watched videos of people trying it. So I was excited, and then it turns out it's not 100% there.
So back when Vorpix was still just a beta product that you
still is a beta product.
But before you had to pay for it.
Still have to pay for it.
I know, but before you had to pay for it.
You had to pay for it, okay.
I tried it with Skyrim, and it was the kind of thing that was like an amazing experience to try for 5 minutes just so you could see, oh, right, this is what open world VR Skyrim would look like.
Right.
I couldn't play it. Mm-hmm. It was too hard to play.
You're taken out immediately once you try to move.
Yeah. So you talk about some tech news and stuff.
Yes.
Samsung's Galaxy S6 came out. You have one right there.
Big launch
by your hand. Was there a line?
I got it at Best Buy. So, some context, the GS5, it seems like Samsung's on Star Trek terms.
What's that mean?
Where all the odd ones suck and the even ones are good. It's true. The first Galaxy sucked. The GS2, super popular. GS3, was the GS4 is super popular. 5, they tried to do too much. Packed USB 3, the stupid water resistant stuff, all that health stuff. It didn't sell as well as they wanted. And this one, a huge departure. You're just tapping that home screen.
How huge is the departure? Why is it a huge departure?
It's a huge departure because you can't replace the battery and there's no micro SD card. Those are the two big things that make it so unlike the quote unquote power user phones.
I mean, that's always
the Android fans have liked.
Yeah, that's always been if you on the mainstays of Apple versus iOS versus Android arguing on the internet. That is, oh man, how hard was it to change your battery in your iPhone? Where's your micro SD slot? So presumably, Samsung looked at the actual use of those two features and decided maybe it's not worth supporting this stuff anymore.
Well, I think there's on the Note 4. My bet is the next Note phone will have a replaceable battery.
And a micro SD. Or it could be that they're just ditching it from the entire line. Who knows? The Note 5, you mean?
God damn it. Gary has his MacBook. You just texted
Yours
me.
must be out for delivery by now.
Mine is out for delivery.
Is it delivery here or there?
No, at home.
Can you tell me what these these things are next to the camera lens?
That's a heart rate sensor, IR sensor. It's heartbeat sensor.
Heartbeat sensor.
So you put your finger. So there's flashes.
Is that
next
new?
to the camera lens? No, they had it last year.
Oh.
But you put your finger there, and then it will detect your heartbeat.
So you bought this phone yourself?
Yeah. I'm on AT&T, and so I actually wanted to get it from an AT&T store, but they will not sell you one at the AT&T store unless you do their stupid contract, the next contract. I think.
Oh, you have to do it's the family plan.
It's basically their family plan.
Yeah.
Of course, long-time listeners know that I am very happy with my unlimited data.
You're unlimited, not unlimited data.
Unlimited data, which I have not yet been throttled, and I've gone well over 3-4 gigs. Because also I can put it on, if I put the SIM card on an unlocked phone, like the OnePlus One, I get all the tethering and everything, and I still have those phones. I can still use them. AT&T will not sell you the full price phone. I had to go to Best Buy. And this phone is launching, GSM, CDMA, it's on Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, AT&T.
Did you fix the screen on the OnePlus One?
No, I still need to have the replacement screen on that. The differences between the carrier versions of the phone is not something that's well advertised. If you get the AT&T version of the phone, for example, AT&T will not include OneDrive for Microsoft. So Microsoft has a deal with Samsung to include apps, OneNote, OneDrive. So you don't get the 300 gigabytes. You don't get the fast downloader.
What's the fast downloader?
It's a feature that was in the GS5 and in the GS6, but is not... But on AT&T and some other carriers, it's removed, where you can actually download simultaneously from Wi-Fi and LTE at the same time for large files, for any file basically, but it works best when you're trying to download a large file. And then also a task application battery manager that Samsung put in. That was one of their big features. Of course, when you buy with a carrier, you will get that carrier's bloatware, which you can't really delete those apps. You can...
It's hard.
Hide them and force disable and not have them show up. But that's the problem of buying the carrier model. There is an unlocked version, but they're very expensive. They're upwards of $1,000 for the 32 gig model right now on Amazon. So if you want to wait for that, be patient. But otherwise, we'll talk more about the phone and what we're testing. I think it's selling well.
What was did iFixit do a teardown?
iFixit has done a teardown. There are two models of the phone. So the big thing is there's the Galaxy S6 and also the Galaxy S6 Edge. The Edge has the weird curved screen on both the left and right side where this image actually bends around.
Did you get that one?
No.
Oh.
That one... It's a little heavier, a little thicker. There's a slightly bigger battery. It's a little more expensive.
It seems like that's the one to get. Try the new thing, right?
That's the stupid one because they already tried that feature in the Note Edge and had like buttons on the side. And from all the earlier reviews, no one understood why that was necessary and actually got in the way of Google's the Lollipop UI.
Oh. So this is their bad.
Yep.
This is bad Samsung.
But we'll talk more about the features and specifics of the phone later on.
Okay.
But so far, I really like it.
We also had Apple Watch trial day was last Friday.
That's right.
Now I think all of us have been. You guys went on Friday morning first thing.
Yeah.
I have to say, I did the pre-order. I was out at a game cafe playing board games with people at midnight when the pre-orders went live. Did the pre-order for the phone and was done by 12:02
on your phone.
On my phone.
That's the way to do it.
Using Apple Pay.
Because you could use Apple Pay.
And then there was no credit card processing, so it just worked.
But you still didn't get the one you wanted.
Yeah, I did. I got the Milanese loop.
That's not the one you wanted, though.
Which one did I want?
I thought you wanted to get the leather band.
No, they don't make the leather band that I want. And after seeing the leather bands, I'm glad I didn't get the leather band because the leather bands all looked crappy, I thought.
Oh, let's talk about Apple Watch.
So
here we go.
Is this would you rather do it later?
No. I want to talk about Apple Watch.
Okay.
No, yeah. I'm physically preparing myself.
You guys shot a video, and Jeremy and Gary both said a lot about how dumb they are for buying Apple Watches.
Yes.
And Norm, you basically shared none of your opinions whatsoever
Jeremy
about the device.
and Gary weren't prepared to shoot a video.
Okay.
That was a very spontaneous thing that Norm proposed.
Very honest. And you guys are very honest. I mean, the amount of reality distortion when you're there is strong.
It is.
So
do you want to talk about the actual demo process?
Yeah, let's talk about the experience. Okay. So when I walked in, I had a 10 o'clock appointment yesterday morning, Monday morning, I guess. Walked in, basically they take you over to this place where there's some pads with a watch next to what looks like an iPad embedded in Lucite. And then they have a NFC controlled, remote controlled door that opens up and it's just full of Apple Watches.
Mm-hmm. The pad is about the size of a placemat. It's like to protect the watch.
It's like it's like when you go to the jewelry store and you're looking at fancy watches, they have a velvet or leather pad that they set the fancy watch on.
Now, you said you made an appointment, but they also are taking walk-ins.
They were taking walk-ins. And that morning at 10 o'clock, there were a couple of walk-ins along with a couple of appointments. When I interrogated the Apple Store employees, basically they said, like, walk-ins in the early morning are no problem. The rest of the day, it's basically full all day.
And weekends, I'm sure, are much more impacted.
Yeah. But it looks like they're gating the dates. So when I looked on Saturday for a Monday appointment, they didn't have any listed. When I looked on Sunday afternoon for Monday appointments, they had a bunch. So I think that they're only doing appointments a day or two in advance. So you go in. Presumably you're supposed to have gone into the Apple Store app and favorited the bands you want to see, which I did. And then they ignore that completely when you get to the store.
Really?
I read an article that said they didn't. That I guess that's optional.
So I had favorited bands.
I did.
And when I got there, he was like, "What do you want to see?" And I said,
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a little weird because we like people at the Apple Store where we usually go recognize. I don't know if they recognize me usually.
I think the point is that what Apple wants you to do is have at least go to the website and get a sense of what's available on for the selection before, so you know when they ask you what you want to try on, you're not like, what is that one? I mean, you want to at least know that there are the plastic sport, the leather, and the Milanese and other things. So you know, because you only can try on for like your 15-minute appointment, basically.
I tried on as much as I wanted, basically.
Right, in your allocated time.
Yeah.
And then they'll take out, one or two at a time in different sizes. So in the drawer, they have, a wide selection. Not Apple stores. All Apple stores have the same selection.
Not even all the drawers weren't the same selection.
Exactly. But the big differentiating thing is that what they don't tell you is that what you put on your wrist is not a working unit that you get to actually manipulate.
So the ones I had were working. They were limited.
Were they running a demo loop, or could you interact?
You could interact with them. Like when the text popped up, you could change stuff and things like that. So maybe they changed them from Friday to Monday.
That might have been changed. But
I mean, it wasn't it wasn't as functional as the one on the stand. Just to be clear.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But like you could tap and you could scroll through things and stuff.
So that's something that could have changed. When we tried it, they're like, okay, the ones you try on purely turn off screens. I think, Jeremy, you activated a demo loop accidentally, and the guy freaked out.
Well, he didn't freak out, but he was surprised that it turned on.
But they are powered because in that drawer
they're on chargers.
Yeah. So presumably they're meant, you're meant to be able to to manipulate them. But it also makes sense if you're trying on different bands, and ostensibly the point of this appointment is to figure out the size of the watch you want, or the band you want.
I think the point of the appointment is to sell you an Apple Watch first, right? Because I assume most of the people are in there aren't already decided to buy. They're coming in to see if they are interested in this.
And what it is and what could be good for. The point of the stuff in the drawer is the band selection, and which is why they also have that watch, a separate demo unit tied to the screen, so that you can actually then manipulate the UI. Now, the thing we mentioned and the big problem is that none of those are actually connected to the phones.
Yeah.
So you don't get any of the app experience, any of the actual Siri stuff.
Which was a big criticism from all the reviewers.
Yeah.
The slowness, the lag that it takes when it tries to load information from the phone.
Was also something that they said that was going to be improved before actual launch from the review units. Yeah. I didn't notice a whole lot of performance problems using. So, okay, let's go through the band try-on first, and we'll talk about, because after you finish the band try-on, basically you can go off to the wall of Apple Watches and spend as much time as you want with one of them over there, which is what I did after I finished trying on bands. They asked me about which one I bought because they knew I already ordered one, and which,
let's be clear, that is a fucked up process.
What?
This is on Friday, especially Friday morning, where people they wanted you for you to get an Apple Watch on launch day, you basically had to buy one sight unseen
at 12:05.
By 12:05, and then for people who the reasonable thing to do from consumer standpoint is actually to see one in person, try something on, and figure out what you want. If you did that, like what Gary did, you're not going to get one.
Right.
It's 4 to 6 weeks.
It is a bad experience.
Did you see that guy who emailed Tim Cook in that exchange that they had about that?
No.
Supposedly somebody, I think it was on Mac Rumors, emailed Tim Cook and got a response back about this issue, or maybe got a response back from somebody in Apple PR. In any case, this is supposed to be a point of contention inside of Apple right now. That there is some disagreement about whether or not they should be pushing the Apple launch date if there's nothing to sell. As hard as
the Apple Watch,
yeah, say that maybe they shouldn't be saying it's available on the 24th because it's not.
Yeah, I ordered at 12:02, and mine still says April 24th to May 8th.
To May 8th. So
yeah,
did you pay for the expedited shipping?
No option for that.
Wow,
because it's coming straight from China, I'm sure.
Even when you come straight from China, you can pay for expedited shipping.
I'll upgrade that right now if it's an option.
Yeah.
Usually, it comes as fast as it possibly can, regardless.
For launch days.
Yeah, I mean,
for launch days. And it was the same thing with the MacBook. Like, I've expected to be able to go to the store and get a MacBook for testing, and no Apple store in the U.S. I think some people say, some do. I tried so many zip codes on the store locator. None of them were available for pickup. It's all shipped to store. It all comes from China to the store. Now, I don't know if that's an inventory advantage, and they're saving on, but this is the new policy. This seems to be what they brought in. Angela, I can never pronounce her last name. Arendt
from Burberry.
To revamp the Apple in-store shopping experience. And I don't think they're going to get rid of the Genius Bar or get rid of service and support in the physical stores, because that's still best there. But for purchasing, it seems to be moving away from the compulsion of people buying, walking in and walking out with at least the MacBook and the watch. Who knows about the phones? Now, if you think about it from the phone perspective, carrier stores and Best Buy, third-party stores are going to have them in inventory. And they are, by proxy, serving as warehouses for the Apple Store.
I think it's safe to say that phones are going to be different than everything else that they sell going forward. I mean, because the carrier partners are much more tightly integrated.
Well, I want to believe that by October, whenever the next iPhone launches, you won't be able to go into a store day one and buy an iPhone.
I think that's probably not the case.
Think about right now, it's long lines.
Yeah.
How many versus, because remember, we've done pre-sale for iPhones for many years.
The S models. So this year is an S model, presumably, which is usually a quiet year in terms of iPhone lines.
Every iPhone line, every launch there's been a line.
Yes.
Right. So let's say, but we've had online orders since the iPhone 4. And every year since, every release since, the online orders have increased in volume.
That's true.
The pre-orders to a point where even if theoretically there is no available iPhone in the Apple Store on launch day, but there is in Best Buy, AT&T, Verizon, everywhere else, acting as the warehouses and the actual inventory houses, the amount of sales they would potentially lose just from walk-ins for Apple stores, because there are lines anyway, is I think a very, very small percentage of the not only launch day sales because they have the pre-orders, but the overall life of that phone.
I mean, here's the thing. It's a much better experience for everybody involved if UPS comes to your house at 11 o'clock in the morning and gives you your new phone than you have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and get in a line with a bunch of other assholes.
Exactly. And
I would love for that to be the case as the asshole who's usually has to wait in line for the phone. I don't think, I mean, I guess we got the 6 order. I mean, here's the thing. The last one I stood in the line for was the 5 probably, right? Which was 2 years ago.
And unless they have manufacturing problems where they can't anticipate and fulfill the pre-orders in advance, the 2 weeks before they make the announcement and available for sale, which again, this is one of Tim Cook's supposed strengths and proven strengths. The real benefit of having the big whining lines outside Apple Store on launch day is for media attention. And I think
they don't need media attention.
They don't need the media attention. And 2, if they make the stores, the pure Apple stores, mostly showrooms, which again, lot like for fashion, you're going to get lines anyway from people who want to try it. The people who are on the fence.
I mean, here's the thing: is I never got the feeling that anybody was torqued that I was wasting time with an already purchased watch just to go through and verify and get experience with the thing that I've already ordered, right? So, in a traditional retail standpoint, if I went in and was like, "Yeah, I ordered this on the internet the other day, but I came in because I want to check it out," people would be pissed. I would think,
and you shouldn't do that.
Well,
you shouldn't order expensive things, without having tried them.
That is generally a good policy. I mean, just to be clear, had we not needed watches for the website, I wouldn't have ordered a watch on Friday.
I'm saying outside our special need case, the way they've enacted the release of this, I think
it's bad.
It's bad for consumers.
We both agree, yeah. But on the other hand, there's a lot of places that it's hard to get to Apple stores. So if the only way you can get one of these is to go to the Apple store, I think that's not a great solution either. Like I don't know what the right solution is for this. I feel like having the stuff in the store so people can go look at it at least would have been constructive.
Yep.
Before the pre-order date. Like if stuff was in the store on the 3rd instead of the 10th, or the 10th and then the sale date is this Friday,
that'd
something
be
like that.
Much better.
Right. Or if they allocated, for people who made appointments, allocated stock. So
that would be nice.
If you make an order on the spot, an educated, informed decision on the spot, you would be guaranteed one on the launch day.
I don't think Apple is in the interest. It's in their best interest to have customers making educated, informed decisions.
Want you to Apple Pay thumb press that purchase.
So I went in. They asked me which ones I wanted to see. Asked me which one I bought. And I had a checklist of things that I wanted to see. I wanted to see both sizes. I wanted to see the Milanese loop for sure. I wanted to see the modern leather. I wanted to see the poofy leather, and I wanted to see the link band and the plastic band. Saw all of that stuff, no problem, in 15 minutes. The takeaway I have from the entire experience is that they have dramatically too few band options available for something that is going to be a bunch of people are going to buy, and B,
at launch or period.
I think that. I mean, my hope is that they're going to open up the connectors to third parties so that people can make them. I know, but it's
one of the big innovations that John Gruber said is the connector, and how pleasant it is to swap out bands. And Apple's going to, Apple will make a lot of money from bands, and I think so too.
If Apple takes a percentage of every band that's sold, I don't think they're going to be unhappy with that. But I felt like
there'll be ripoffs.
There are no good leather bands available right now. I feel like all of the leather bands feel shoddy compared to, say, the leather band on your Asus watch looks like a nice wet leather watch band. The modern buckle leather band, aesthetically, yeah. The modern leather watch band has a really neat buckle, and it looks like a super shitty band, even though I know it's an expensive piece of leather. Like, it's not stitched. It looks like it's cut out of a machine. It doesn't look like it's going to age particularly well. I was dramatically unimpressed with both of the standard traditional leather bands. And then the poofy magnetic leather band has its own set of problems in that it looks like something that would be on a Swatch in like 1997 rather than a watch band for grown-ups. Like, when I look at this, what I came out of this with was that the the options for leather bands on this watch, for bands on this watch, are the Milanese loop, the plastic one, and the link bracelet. And those are the only three I would wear.
And that's personal preference.
But that is personal preference. But I think that my feeling, like, there's nothing that looks like a traditional leather watch band.
Okay, and that's a very fair critique, and I agree. If you want something like this, the Seuss one has the stitching, and maybe it's. I mean, we talked about skeuomorphism. This is the complete opposite. You know, if you love fine Corinthian leather and the stitching,
fine Corinthian leather,
supple leather and stitching, and here's your opportunity. You know, Apple acolytes to put that in an actual thing that requires it. They failed on that part. From a functional standpoint, I don't think that we had enough time. Like, I tried putting on the plastic one, the metal one, the metal clasp, so they're butterfly clasp, and the leather one, the magnetic leather one. They're all easy enough to put on the spot there, but without having lived with that for several months, I don't know how that's gonna.
So I took them both on. I took them on and off. I took the leather, the magnetic leather, and the Milanese
And the magnetic
loop.
leather was by far the easiest to put on and adjust.
The magnetic leather, the Milanese loop tends to stick back on itself because of the way the metal works.
That was super easy to put on, and that one was, yeah.
Both of the magnet, the one thing I will say is I was concerned about the magnet's ability to hold, and be secure. Like, there's no way you're ripping that off of your wrist. People are worried about somebody running up and stealing their watch. It's not going to happen because the magnet fails. The link bracelet, it wasn't adjusted for me, so it was difficult to judge. The way the mechanism works is really nice and both more secure and more convenient than, say, the link bracelet latch on my Speedmaster. It seemed comparable, but much nicer than the one on the Pebble steel. I don't know.
And then the leather one that you like, the brown leather one, the traditional leather one, is apparently the one that's selling the worst.
The classic buckle or the modern buckle?
Classic buckle.
So the modern buckle, I might have actually bought that watch.
It only comes in the girl size.
It only comes in the 38 millimeter, which is silly. I thought that because of the lack of if you look at leather work, if you look at a normal watch band, there's usually stitches down the side, and that exists to keep the leather from fraying at the edges and getting ratty looking over a period of time. And I didn't see that on these watches. It's possible they did some crazy material science stuff to make this not happen, but I think that those are not going to age particularly well. The fluoroelastomer stuff, I thought felt much better than I expected. Yeah, the plastic
stuff felt really good.
It was really, really soft. I'll be interested to see if that gets dirty and ages the same way that, say, the plastic iPad and iPhone cases do.
Especially if people are supposed to run with them and exercise with them.
Yeah. I mean, it may be that you can just take it off the watch and wash it with some soap and water. But I thought that those were shockingly good options, and now I kind of understand why they put them on the $17,000 watch as an option after wearing it. I thought it felt really nice.
Between the two sizes, the 42, I think a lot of people said that these watches felt and looked smaller than they anticipated.
Yeah.
And the 42 felt like even for me the right size for me.
I have dainty girl wrists, and I thought the 42 was comparable volume to my Speedmaster, which I like. Like, just to be clear, the watch that I wear on a day-to-day basis is a smaller than current watch. Like, modern dude watches are huge, and my wrist can't support that. But the 42 felt right to me.
Me too. I'm surprised. I'm still surprised they even went with two sizes. And I hope that they learn from this round of sales that they don't need to, that hopefully the 42 is good enough for just about everybody, just from a development standpoint.
I think
so that there can be nice, smooth parity for the development teams.
I disagree. I mean, I think if you look at, I think the thing that's holding back Pebble is the fact that they only have one size watch, and women aren't going to buy an enormous ass watch.
Well, that's the thing. I think the 42 is not enormous. I think that everyone's seeing this watch and they're saying, oh, it's smaller than I expected it to be.
But from the people I know, and like, you got one for your wife and you got one for your wife also.
Yeah. Well, my wife got one for herself. She got the 38.
She's a big girl.
And I think, Gary's wife also.
She's big enough. She's big enough to buy her own watch.
Gary's wife also got the 38.
Mm-hmm.
So did she?
The 38 option, I think, is useful.
It's funny that it started. They distinctly did not make the women's-men's comparison, but that is what has happened. We knew that would happen.
Yeah. And I think they designed some of the bands for that purpose. The actual band try-on experience, now, something that's really interesting going forward, Apple with the watch becoming more of a fashion company, especially hiring Burberry exec and all, and also Mark Newsom designing fashion items. Johnny Ive loves the fashion stuff. Apple Store employees, on the first day at least, did not seem really in their element, comfortable giving these kind of watch demos.
We were their first demos, like literally their first watch demos.
And I know that even though they've been trained, it's still a new thing. They'll get better at it.
I didn't notice any awkwardness.
There was the awkwardness wasn't just in their
I'm telling you, two hours later, they would have been 100% better.
I went the next day.
Really?
It seemed clumsy.
Huh. Handling the actual watches.
Two things. One, and I think the one thing that will get better is their knowledge of the watch and UI and the interface. Like there's some inconsistencies, and that's partly because the demo units weren't as full functional as what the production units will be, what the final release units will be. That will work itself out. But two, there's a new language for how they're selling these products, and you think that the existing Apple Store core, the employee core, they are used to selling computer products. They're techies. The whole idea of the Genius Bar. They're good for tech support. They're great. They can sell an expensive phone, an expensive laptop to someone who may or may not want it. But to sell a fashion product, there's a whole new lexicon. And I was acutely aware of the type of language they would use when talking about the different watch styles.
This is Italian leather.
They would say,
Viennese
for example,
leather.
I'll say, there's this one's the magnetic strap on the leather watch. It's similar to the Milanese one. And they would say, but the Milanese one, that's a much more personalized choice. There's a lot of employee handbook jargon.
I usually just ignore that stuff,
and it's easy for us to ignore it, but it's also the how that compares to the normal Apple Store experience, where it's just like from the Captain America movie, we got the same beard or whatever, right?
What are you talking about?
When Scarlett Johansson and the broy, the friendly tech nerd attitude of the Apple Store, the Captain America movie. Do you remember that?
No.
Do you remember that, Jeremy?
Which Captain America movie?
The last one.
No, I don't remember that.
They go to an Apple Store and they use a MacBook, and a blue shirt walks up to them.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
It's like, we're like twinsies, whatever. Like that type of persona, I think, is going to move away, or isn't exactly compatible with the fashion watch selling Apple Store employee.
I would be surprised, but maybe. So hold on. If the models that they were putting on your wrist didn't work, you didn't feel the taptic feedback.
I don't know if Norm did. Did you?
I did not feel the taptic feedback.
I did, actually, because when it went into this mysterious demo mode, one of the screens provided that taptic feedback.
It gave you. Oh, so the one I had just got a notification when you put it on. Like when it detected it was on your wrist, it gave you a notification and you got a bump. It is a very distinct feeling.
I quite liked it. And I turned to the guy, and I was so elated by the experience. I said, that was the first time I've ever experienced taptic feedback.
Thanks, Jeremy.
And this is worse than the video, Jeremy.
Where can I get the Kool-Aid?
If there's anything, can I buy something that's going to let me feel it? It's a distinct feeling from the rumble on the Pebble or the other smartwatches we've used, which it's hard to miss the rumble of the Pebble. The problem with the rumble of the Pebble is that it's loud, and if you're in a quiet environment, everyone around you will also know that your smartwatch went off. I'm interested to hear if you hear this in the real world.
Some people also, and this is something that I don't know, we'll have to know when we live with it, is how good the taptic feedback versus the rumble is if you like watches that are relatively loose. Some people wear watches more like bracelets and don't have it super tight because it's uncomfortable. And people like,
And not just that, but the sensing of your heart
exactly.
rate.
Like some people like fidgeting with their watch and spinning it around. Like it is a thing that you can fidget with.
Well, but even that, like even over the course of the day, the thickness of my wrist changes enough that my watch goes from flappy to tight.
So how good is the taptic, tapping versus a rumble and also for the health tracking stuff? That's all stuff to be determined, which we just can't tell yet.
Yeah.
From the UI perspective, the thing I was not surprised about was exactly how much smoother and fast and more responsive it is than the Android
Did you go look
watches.
at the demo machines afterwards?
We did the whole. We spent a lot of time with the actual ones. The digital crown.
Man, that thing's neat.
It's 1-to-1.
And it has inertia too.
It doesn't have inertia.
The spinning doesn't have inertia, but the software adds inertia based on your movement.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, because I reported otherwise in Norm's video.
So when you spin, if you give it enough of a spin that it feels like it should keep going, the crown stops. I spent a lot of time with my eyeball right up against it. It stops immediately when you take your finger off of it.
Okay.
But the software will coast.
Just like scrolling a web page on the iPhone?
Just like scrolling a web page on the iPhone.
Kidding.
It's so weird.
I actually don't.
My experience is 1-to-1 only, and that's why it was so loose. Like scrolling down mail. Mail was one, because a lot of times you couldn't scroll. There wasn't a lot to scroll down.
I was scrolling. I want to say I was scrolling in and out of the Photos app when I was doing this. Okay. I can't remember.
So more of a zoom?
It was a zoom, but I was using it as a yeah.
Where it's most acutely 1-to-1 is the favorites circle, the dial.
Okay.
When you have the faces.
No inertia there. That's correct.
When you're just moving, how fast you spin is how fast the dial spins around. It really looked like you were adjusting time, when you're adjusting time with a traditional watch.
Yeah. I did notice, though, in lists, the faster you would scroll, the more you would scroll. So, like, if you're in a long list of alphabetized contacts, I think if you go fast.
So there's acceleration.
You zip. Yeah.
Okay. But it definitely felt loose. Like, if you have a analog mechanical watch,
there's no friction.
There's no friction at all.
Right.
It almost feels oiled.
Yeah.
Well, so like I just wound this all the way, so you can't turn it, but like turn it toward the bottom from the top. Yeah, that way.
Much looser than
it's
this.
much looser than that. It doesn't have the clickiness either. I was expecting.
What brand is this?
This is an Omega Speedmaster. I was expecting turn it down toward your hand.
much.
I was expecting to feel like the thing is you couldn't even feel the laser cuts on the wheel with your fingertips.
It was a really good grip. The grip was fantastic, and something that Gary pointed out was that. We were with the demo unit. I was actually using the crown on. It wasn't on my wrist, so I was holding the watch and winding the crown like I'm using with yours, where I'm using two fingers.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons it's loose is because when it's on your wrist, it's actually made to wind with just the top.
Yeah, right? and so when I was trying it on and had the demo loop running, I would actually do that.
Yeah.
Like
just the top of the finger.
The top of the finger.
A lot of people
was really good.
Have commented that the UI is vastly more complicated than the first iPhone was. And I agree. There's a lot going on there in terms of swiping from the top on, swiping from the bottom on, force pressing. There's two buttons on the side. There's the wheel. There's touchpad. There's quite a lot to learn about the UI.
But the audience is much more knowledgeable. Like the audience understands things like sweeping in from the side and sweeping in from the top and the bottom.
Well, I tried pinching so many times.
Yeah, you can't
Did
pinch.
Nothing.
No.
You can't pinch. Yeah, I don't know if it is intuitive in that sense.
I don't.
But I do think people are very used to their iPhones and they expect a certain level of complexity. At least to get all the features that are to have parity with the iPhone, you have to have some complexity because there's just not enough buttons to press.
So there's a difference between the actual complexity and depth that's there and how intuitive the surface level features are. And as long as the surface level features are intuitive, the things that the majority of people will want to use, because the depth of the iPhone, depth of any Android phone, I would argue most users don't even touch that.
You're saying like the notification center and things like that.
Yeah.
You go as deep as you want.
I felt like the glances that were set up, obviously they weren't connecting to a phone, which is where a lot of the complaints came from. It seemed pretty useful. Like I then went afterwards and looked at an article that detailed how Uber and Dark Sky and stuff like that, things that I actually use a lot, work. And like that stuff sounded super interesting. Like Uber, you launch the Uber app and you tap a button, and it just basically gets you a car wherever you happen to be. You say, which Uber do you want? Bring it to me now. Dark Sky is a similar thing, except for it works in a glance. So you pop up from the bottom, and then you see when it's going to rain next, based on movement of clouds in your area. I didn't like. The thing that I was a little bit disappointed by on the software front was the actual customization options for the different watch faces.
Oh, really?
So I was expecting, based on the stuff that they had told us, to be able to do things like on the chronograph, place the number of dials and stuff like that you wanted to place them anywhere in that range of the middle. And that stuff you can't do.
You can't place anything. You can replace.
You can add or remove from certain areas. But like if you want to have a triple dial set up underneath the center of the watch, that's not an option. You only have dials above and below, so you can have seconds and minutes, but not hours. It's less of a problem since it's a digital watch at the end of the day. But like, kind of, I expect it to be much more customizable at that point.
I just plan to go Mickey anyway.
You're really full Mickey all the time?
I'm pretty much full Mickey.
They did fancy animations for that.
I don't expect there to be any complications for the Mickey interface either.
There are not complications for the Mickey interface.
Yeah,
we were having fun moving that the moon and the Earth
switching
around.
between the Ori. The Ori was neat.
Or just actually spinning
there's
the
a
Earth.
globe.
Oh, you can spin it?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Was that a time zone thing? It was pretty cool.
I'm not sure it was. I know the moon one was like a faces of the moon thing.
Yeah, the astronomy one. So this is what I spent a lot of time messing around with. Oops, sorry. You can switch between the moon, the Earth, and an overall like a solar system Ori view is what they call that.
Oh, cool.
That shows you the current state of that. And when you look at the current state of the Earth, it shows it's centered above where you are because it knows where you are. I don't know if it's showing weather.
That's
I
neat.
wish if it's showing clouds, that's magic.
Yeah. That'd be neat.
I couldn't tell because I didn't know what the weather was like outside. Really.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was interested. The stuff that you could see on the demo units wasn't really what I was interested in looking at, though. I want to see what happens when you hook it up to a phone. I want to see what happens when apps become involved.
I'll tell you one thing I was anxious to see that no one ever shows in a demo, which is the emojis, like those horrible 3D emojis.
They're really bad.
Smiley face, the mime hand. And no one ever scrolls to that fourth tab. And it turns out that fourth tab is standard emojis.
Oh, really?
So I'm super happy to know that.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Gary just sent me a diagram. Apple Watch user interface infographic. It's a big flow chart of what all the interfaces do.
Oh, good.
This is going to be very useful. We should print it out and put it on the wall.
Okay.
I'm going to give that to my wife, to be honest with you. I am.
No, this is going to be necessary.
What happens when you swipe in from the top?
That's notifications.
That's notifications.
Yeah.
Can't swipe in from the bottom. Here we go. See?
No, swiping from the bottom is glances.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right. Swiping from the top is notification center.
Is that everywhere? Or is that only on the watch face? That's the other thing that was
Only
weird
on the
to
watch
me.
app.
It seems like you're going to end up going back to the watch app a lot, and there's a lot of like double taps and long presses and stuff like that on the digital crown that switch you between going back to the previous app and switch you to going to the. If you double tap on the crown, I think you go to the watch face.
Oh, double tap the crown.
Yeah.
That's new. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, so it is a really complex thing.
Force Touch is brand new.
I like Force Touch.
I think that's going to elude a lot of people. I don't know if a lot of people are even going to try Force Touching.
Hierarchy. Customize watch face, watch app screen, app, Force Touch from top to bottom.
And so the thing that's missing from this that was there on the original iPhone that made the original iPhone simple is that when you press the home button on the original iPhone, you went back to the home screen.
Always.
On this, I don't think that when you press the crown, it just goes back one level. It doesn't take you back to the home screen. Mm-hmm. So like
what's the home screen? Is it the watch face?
The home screen is the watch face because it's a watch.
It's not the list of icons.
It is not the list of icons.
The grid.
Boy.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. It's not the bubble grid.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
Complications.
And you couldn't try Siri since it wasn't connected.
Right.
And that's something I
Hey Siri.
I wanted to try that.
Yeah.
Okay, Google.
MacBook
Alexa.
reviews are out.
So
Ars Technica did a big one.
Yeah, so did Nantech. They weren't out as when we did the podcast last week, and mine is on its way.
It's on a boat.
No, it's possible on a FedEx truck right now.
Oh, okay.
But some revelations.
Which color did you get? Space gray?
Space gray.
You should have gone with champagne.
Is that the gold?
Yeah.
That's the goal. Revelations. So there are 3 processor models. They are at the Core M, of course, but Apple has actually clocked them higher slightly than Intel's default, which any OEM can do. Thermal throttling does happen. Based on some reports, it's either around 28 seconds of heavy load is when it heats up to a point where it does need the throttle. So if you're doing like image Photoshop tasks, heavy Photoshop, if you're in the process of,
like raw processing and stuff like that.
Raw processing filters, exporting stuff. That will all get throttled at around that half minute to minute mark.
That seems bad.
Well, it depends what throttling means. What is throttling actually, and this is what we'll have to test. And reviews are kind of unclear about, when you're talking about what's the difference in terms of performance when you're talking about the 1.3 to 2.6 turbo mode. How much throttling? How much does that affect battery? What does multiple threads? How many tabs of Chrome? At which point does that affect your performance?
Yeah,
on doing day-to-day stuff.
I can fire up the fan on my 13-inch MacBook Pro with like 25 tabs open in Chrome,
or at least with the fan, any laptop, you can tell when that throttling's happened because you hear the fan, and you feel it getting hot. Here, we don't know yet, or how that will be indicated, or what's the best way to test that. Actually, the one port stuff, accessories, surprise the. FU accessory, $80 accessory, not even available now.
What?
It comes out on the 24th.
So
that's the one with the HDMI.
Hold on. If you buy one of these and you need to plug a USB thumb drive into it, there's no way to do that.
Yeah, you can.
How?
The USB thumb drive, you can get any USB 3 to female A-type accessory. Those are available.
So you can get a single USB, old USB to new USB adapter.
And Monoprice sells that. Even Google Store, because the Chromebook Pixel has USB 3.
But then you can't charge at the same time.
But then you can't charge at the same time.
Shit.
If you want to do more than one thing at once, the multi-hub accessory, Apple's version of that sells on the 25th and very expensive, $80.
Out of the box, is there any USB?
Out of the box, there is the USB C to C for power, and the brick has a C input.
Okay.
Is the brick, and the brick looks like an iPad charger, right?
Looks like an iPad charger and has the C, so it's not A to C.
Wow.
There are, if you go to Amazon and eBay, there are some USB 3 hub accessories right now, so you can take a gamble and try that. This is, again, USB 3.1 Gen 1.
Is this like an anime?
No,
kind of is, right?
And this is not Apple's fault. This is actually the USB Alliance's fault. USB 3, which we've had for years now, is now rebranded as 3.1. But if you read news reports about 3.1, that's supposed to be double the bandwidth. The double the bandwidth is only 3.1 Gen 2.
Oh, boy.
What you get with the MacBook is Gen 1 because they didn't want to put the extra third-party
So it's basically what you're saying is this is functionally equivalent to USB 3.
With power.
With
100 watts of power.
But it uses a weird new cable.
Even Apple's adapter will only do HDMI. If you want to use DisplayPort, which USB 3 has, you can buy a cable from Google, but what's uncertain is whether that can push out, for example, 4K 60, because it might not. It's only single transport, not multi-transport.
Got it. It's this whole thing, like this. A lot of this seems like problems that'll go away over time as the ecosystem for the USB-C connector gets better,
or as wireless everything gets better.
Yeah, but right now, this seems like a real sketchy purchase, especially at the price that it's hit.
If you are someone who plugs their laptop into many things, then this is probably not the.
You mean like a mouse and keyboard?
Well, I would say mouse. Well, a laptop. I don't plug that in. I mean, if you're using a laptop,
don't you have a mouse and keyboard on your desk over there?
I think most people don't plug their laptops into their mouse and keyboard. I think the things that most people plug laptops into that you do need a wired connection is USB flash drives.
Yeah.
And
card
display.
Readers.
I would put card readers and flash drives in the same. Storage and display are the things that right now are not best served with a wireless alternative.
With what they're doing.
With and across PC or Apple.
Yeah.
And power. So power, data, storage, and display.
So we'll have more about this next week. We've got a lot of stuff to get through and not a whole lot of time left. So the U.S. telecom industry has basically filed suit against the FCC over the net neutrality rules. I think last time I looked, there were 5 lawsuits from the CTIA, which is the Wireless Telecom Association, the NCTA, which is the cable companies, the American Cable Association, which is smaller independent cable companies, AT&T, and I don't know who the 5th one was. The upshot is this all happened within minutes of each other on the 14th, and basically they're they're saying that the FCC overstepped its bounds and they're all taking shots at it. It's interesting to me that they're all taking simultaneous shots because the last time basically they let everybody step back and let Verizon do the dirty work. So, I mean, this to me says that the FCC rules about net neutrality and broadband as a utility are really a step in the right direction for people. And hopefully this lawsuit stuff is resolved in a timely manner.
Here.
In our favor. Did you see the thing about Time Warner Cable's response when Google Fiber was just announced?
In
for Charlotte. I think they should announce Google Fiber for San Francisco and Pacifica.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Today.
Even though we're not using Time Warner.
But Comcast has got to make a response too.
What happened?
Gotta.
TWC basically was like, hey guys, we got a lot more bandwidth here. It's free.
Nice.
To all their existing customers.
6 times.
I'm telling
So
you.
what were they at?
That's
the thing I couldn't find.
This is all Google's MO. They don't care. They didn't want to create a competing product. They just wanted to force the market to increase the bandwidth.
They just want all of your private information. All of it.
They want everyone online with as fast a connection as possible. They don't need to provide that connection.
That's true.
They want to sell you ads.
3D Robotics announced this. They want to know who you are, what you like, and so they can sell ads to you more effectively. 3D Robotics announced the Solo, which it seems like their answer to the Phantom, right?
It is. And, the current, I think, not CEO, because that's still Chris Anderson, but one of the big heads at 3D Robotics is the next Phantom North American president.
No kidding.
Ex-DJI president. But basically, this has been in development for a long time now. Previously, through robotics, their quads they look a lot like the DIY kits and the stuff. We've built one for.
They're like high-end kit quads.
They are, and they have a great flight controller. It's a little expensive, but this is a self-contained unit made for cinematography.
And is it so? The big problem I had with the 3D robotics stuff early on, at least, is that it was not particularly well integrated. So, for example, you needed a tablet for the flight controller, and then you needed a screen for the FPV camera, and you needed. All this needed to somehow hook onto your control rig. Is this a more integrated solution?
Fully integrated. They're shipping it with their own transmitter. They say video game design transmitter. They just mean it has shoulder buttons. It comes with their own self-built app, which has all the telemetry, all the flight stuff. Plus, even though they're not selling you the camera, this is a quadcopter that's made for GoPros.
Okay.
GoPro has given them access to the GoPro API. And so their app taps into GoPro for wireless control.
So is it connecting to the GoPro wirelessly, or does it use an HDMI cable?
It connects to GoPro wirelessly.
Interesting.
Because you need to send the signal. So
you need to tell it to turn on.
Tell it to turn on. So,
are they also connecting to HDMI then to send the video?
And I think it's still the Wi-Fi connection.
Okay.
It is GoPro's existing Wi-Fi connection.
But that's just a monitor, and they're recording locally.
I know.
Yeah, you're still recording locally.
But I mean, one of the benefits of the Phantom is that you can look and aim. You can set up your shot using the phone. Mm-hmm. Whereas with the 3D robotics stuff, you typically had that was a much more involved setup.
Like the GoPro Wi-Fi stuff, you can use your phone as the viewfinder.
I don't think you have the range that you're going to want on that.
And that is the question.
Yeah.
What is the range going to be like? Because I don't think I'm not sure if it's tied to the range extender.
Oh, I assume that the quad bounced that signal.
Because, I mean, maybe it does. The range on the Wi-Fi for GoPro right now is pretty slender.
Yeah, maybe that does. I'm not exactly sure if the GoPro then connects to the quad and the quad boosts that signal to the app.
Yeah.
That would make a lot of sense. We don't know yet. We haven't gotten the briefing. They have some cool automated camera functionality. So you can, there's keyframing. Basically, you can set 2 endpoints, start and end, and positions for the camera. You have full, gimbal control, and then the quad will automatically do the pan.
Oh, so like you can do those big outside sweep jib shot
do like
type
a lasso
things?
thing, fly in a circle, so you're just controlling the camera. It's basically they designed it so you can both fly and shoot at the same time with just one person.
That's nice. How much is it going to cost?
$1,000 without the gimbal, $1,400 with the gimbal, and it does not include the GoPro.
So presumably you can get your own gimbal for a little less and tack it on there if you want.
I don't know what the mount points are.
Yeah.
They've made it for expandability. Battery life is reportedly high at 20 minutes.
That's good.
20 to 25.
Does it use standard batteries or does it use a custom battery? Okay, so it's $100 battery?
Very much like the Phantom in terms of...
More expensive, though.
But more expensive. With the Phantom 3, yes.
Yeah. The podcasting patent struck down the FF's lawsuit against the patent troll that had the so-called podcasting patent lost. The FF won, the patent troll lost. So your podcasts are safe and free for now, at least.
Also, FAA said that they will not pursue people who put quadcopter videos up on YouTube.
Oh, right. So guess what's going on YouTube?
Well, wait, commercially?
We have commercial YouTube.
What they're saying is that they're not going to blanket
ads on a YouTube page don't mean it's a commercial video.
If you are produced, they will take on a case-by-case basis, but it won't be an automated, takedown.
Okay.
Zuckerberg did an AMA and some interesting Oculus stuff came out of that.
He made one big comment. Someone asked him, what is your vision for Oculus? And I'm not going to read the comment, but basically it sums it up in one sentence. His mission is to give power. It's communication. It's to give people the power to experience anything, to be anywhere.
Experience things that they couldn't otherwise experience.
He really thinks it's a communication platform.
Which is, it turns out, what Facebook is. HBO Go and HBO Now were both live for Game of Thrones premiere. That didn't happen by accident. It seems like they're both running on different services. HBO Go was developed in-house by HBO. HBO Now, the non-cable tied service, is developed by the same folks who did the MLB TV apps and stuff like that.
But the interfaces are different?
I haven't used HBO Now yet, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
The point is they're run on different servers, different backends.
Yeah.
But you mean the distribution, the feeds?
What do you mean?
Are the video streams also coming from different places?
Presumably, yeah.
Okay.
Regardless, both of those survived the Game of Thrones premiere with very few complaints that I saw. 5 times the people, according to one outside agency that looks at router traffic, said that 5 times the people were watching on Go versus Now, which isn't particularly surprising since Now just launched 3 days or something before the premiere. Sling TV had HBO for this as well, but it had some fairly major problems with the load on Game of Thrones night. So WWDC was announced. It's June 8th. You're not allowed to bring your selfie stick or your monopod. Sorry, Joey.
Is that true?
No monopods.
I don't know why they I assume that they're looking at like a monopod as a selfie stick with a just different end. But they don't want selfie sticks.
Why? What happened?
It's unclear.
Okay.
I think that they don't want selfie sticks because they don't want people holding them up at the keynote to get a better shot and annoying people.
Yeah.
Well, that would be my guess, but
throughout the convention, throughout the conference.
Yeah, I know, but why? If you're going to ban it one place, you might as well ban it all of them.
Their invitation or their announcement for that strongly indicates Apple TV.
And music stuff, too.
And music is what the rumors and leaks have been. I mean, they did release a new music app.
Well, iOS 8.4 beta has the new music app, and if you want to see that, it's on Apple Insider. Basically, they're simplifying. It seems like they're going to take a lot of the complexity that's in the current music app, where you can look at like artist music, like the bottom row of icons right now is artists, albums, playlists, whatever. You can configure that stuff. They're going to take all of that out and basically make it music you bought, music you stream, and then something like radio type stuff, I guess, is the third stop. So presumably Beats is going to be integrated in there somehow.
You think so? I hope so.
Yeah, here's the thing. I want Siri control for a streaming music service that I pay for.
Right, me too.
That's like, if I miss, one of the great things that I miss is being able to get in the car and say, hey Siri, play the White Stripes, because you used to be able to do that prior to Siri when it was just voice controls that didn't work very well but worked great for music.
Now it has to be in your iTunes.
And now it has to be in your iTunes Match, and that sucks. I don't want to be buying CDs anymore.
I really hope they do something with Apple TV to make it more of a home automation server.
We'll see in a few weeks.
The new music app also has a little mini player, which I don't know if that's
for the iPhone.
Only when you're in the music app. Yeah. So if you're in the music app, you can minimize what you're playing into a tiny little bar and still play and pause and see what's playing. And it gives big full screen pictures of your artist when you enter an artist.
So
page.
That lets you do up next and make a playlist. And stuff like that while you're still listening to music.
There's like play next and add to up next, which is their queuing system.
Up next is a good thing. I find I use that a ton on Sonos. I think does that better than anybody else. Mm-hmm. It means that you can start a song that you like, and then it's just a race to find the next song on the list before that song ends. So it's fun. It's like a game.
I think it's funny they're investing a lot in this UI, though, given that there's all this momentum towards voice control and streaming services, which not necessarily have anything to do with the music app.
When we don't have market data. Like they know how many people are using the music app, how much, and what they're using it for.
That's true.
So I assume that they're making smart decisions on that stuff based on how normal people use stuff, not me. Guitar Hero Live was announced this week. This is amazing.
Yeah, this is gonna be weird,
guys. It's an FMV game.
I know.
Bad.
You think so?
I don't think. I think that on its face, there were a lot of high fives in the boardroom when they came up with this idea, but when you're playing a game,
it's a first person Guitar Hero game.
Norm, you're the most negative thing you can say is that there were a lot of high fives in the boardroom. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a first person Guitar Hero game. It seems like there's no band element, but basically you stand up in front of your TV with a new redesigned plastic instrument, and the thing that you look out on is a trail, the music highway from all the Guitar Hero and Rock Band games. But on either side of that is either a picture of you and a picture of the crowd that is cheering you on.
Oh, is the crowd?
No,
the crowd's a full screen.
It's
some of the shots had you.
No, that's not you. That's your bandmate.
Oh, that's a bandmate?
The idea is okay. So let's talk about First of all, unlike Rock Band, which is hello, we're getting Guitar Hero and Rock Band back this year.
Fuck Activision, man.
Unlike Rock Band, no backward compatibility with your old stuff. Unlike Rock Band, no backward compatibility with the instruments. Now this could be a good thing because it looks like the redesigned instruments and the redesigned play system. They made a really good argument. Why do you need color combinations when you're not looking at the guitar?
Yeah.
And they designed this to not simulate a real guitar, but what people think guitarists are doing. So really, it's not to learn guitar. It's really for the performance. But like you said, the big thing is the FMV. So the way these things are, it'll be either music videos being played in the background, which I think that's a neat idea. If you license a song, might as well get the music video also and have that play in the background.
Yeah.
Or they've shot these elaborate setups and like CG'd people in the background. And
no. Have you watched the videos?
I have.
They're not CG.
No.
In the distance,
they are.
Yeah.
For the first 1,000 people, they've shot these elaborate Coachella-esque indoor concert venue things for each of the songs.
Well, presumably it's dynamic depending on how well you're doing.
And it's dynamic so that like halfway through a song or at some points of the song, if you're playing poorly, the camera will pan to your bandmates and they'll be like, "What are you doing?
Come on, dude."
Like,
really?
What?
Yeah.
Or it'll pan to the crowd and they'll like boo at you. Actual video. That's going to get so annoying.
And it's going to get redundant, repetitive. Because every time you see the same girl holding up the "You Suck" sign, it's going to be the same video.
Are you sure?
Video. Yes.
I mean, that's a big...
And every time you play well, it's going to be the same goofy-looking guy to your right, your bassist.
Right on, dude.
You're doing so well.
I've never seen anybody like right on somebody in a concert.
Exactly. No, they nod. There's like a nod.
I mean, yeah, there's like the acknowledgement.
The grooving.
Yeah.
But...
The video starts with you backstage before the concert. You get in the huddle with your bandmates, and all the roadies are giving you cool man nods and handing you stuff.
Wow.
And making you feel good. The girls are looking at you a little longer.
This does totally look like Coachella.
Yeah.
Now,
if they actually have some interesting way to make this video feel dynamic and it doesn't feel repetitive, that's the challenge, because that's the FMV challenge.
The FMV, what we know about FMV is that the hard cut between the trigger point,
right, exactly.
Between the old file and the new file. And I'm sure streaming video technology has gotten better to a point where they can blend that in, and they're like, if they're smart about it, it's expensive, first of all. If they're producing this video and they're doing it, within a song, maybe they know where the difficult parts of the song are, and so those are the points that they trigger.
I am intrigued by the first-person perspective. I think that's an interesting direction for the
But they're also not shooting it VR widescreen. Like, talk about missed opportunity.
Well, I mean, this is clearly they're establishing a franchise for the future, for the VR future.
Yeah. Like
who brings a "You Suck" sign to a concert?
Exactly.
What kind of fucking monster does that?
And like, if they direct it and you're looking at the same goofy faces, it's like, I'm gonna give names to every one of these people.
Does this mean that you're not starting your own? You're essentially Marky Mark in that guitar in that rock. What was it? Detroit Rock City. What was the Marky Mark movie where he plays the guy that they bring in to replace the guy who got too high on drugs and they had to sack from the band?
Cruise one?
No, it's Jennifer Aniston and Marky Mark. Mark Wahlberg. You may know him as. Anyway.
Rockstar?
Rockstar. Is
it actually called Rockstar?
I'm going to have to look it up now.
It is actually called Rockstar.
It is. Yeah, you should watch that movie. It's an amazing bad movie.
That's the cover of Guitar Hero, the movie poster for Rockstar.
So like I couldn't make the Alan Parsons experience.
What's interesting to me is that the bandmates don't kick you out. I mean, you can flub every note in the song, and you're still in the band. That's unrealistic.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
They don't lights out the house managers and come on, I apologize. Everyone gets refunds.
Yeah, right.
We're never booking them again.
You'd have to work your way up from some solo career in coffee houses after that.
Now,
yeah.
If this is,
do you start in coffee houses?
You should.
Like, is it starting just you and your acoustic guitar and a harmonica and a thing around your neck?
I like
singing
that.
Mr. Tambourine Man.
In terms of presence, the stage of a rock show is one of those perfect places for a thing like Steam VR, where you're the 15-foot by 15-foot room, the confines.
Well, yeah, but with
the
FMV,
stage.
the camera is fixed.
Yeah, I'm not saying with FMV, but I'm saying like this the idea of embodying a performer and a rock star. That is something that VR can lend itself to, with a wireless peripheral.
Why didn't they do digital with the current generation of consoles?
What do you mean?
Digital characters?
You mean
Duke's like in-game rendered game rather than FMV.
I think they were trying to do something like.
The screenshots look better when it's FMV.
I mean, here's the thing. In the past, my love of Rock Band and Guitar Hero games is based on having a bunch of people over at the house and drinking beers and making food and singing and pretending you're a rock star in the comfort of your own living room. If I didn't have a bunch of friends to play Rock Band with, that is not an awesome experience, right?
Right.
So if I'm just going to stand in my room by myself in my underwear and be a rock star, this is the game for that.
Well, think about when you played Guitar Hero 2. Or 3 and all that CG stuff in the background over in Rock Band. Do you
never see it?
It fades into the background, and hopefully that'll be the case. You'll be as immersed as you want to be. But if you're focused on the buttons and the on-screen commands, as long as it's not distracting.
I'm just amazed that they're making a high-budget FMV game. I mean, that's fucking crazy. It's 2015.
There are a lot of people that were hired, a lot of extras for that game.
When was the last? What was it, like Mad Dog McCree was the last big FMV game, or Night Trap or something like that for the Sega CD? When did that stuff went away?
Wing Commander 4.
Oh yeah, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Malcolm McDowell. It's not really a Malcolm McDowell quote. On Tuesday, SpaceX did another Falcon 9 launch. This time is to the ISS for a resupply mission. And as they do when they have resupply missions to the ISS, they try to land the stage 1 of the Falcon rocket on the barge, which has the best name of any barge that I'm aware of, which is, please just read the instructions, which is a nod to Ian M. Banks's Culture series. They hit the barge this time. It's still a little too hot. So
not reusable.
Getting there.
It landed upright and then too much momentum and it fell over.
Yes. Yes.
Which resulted in another Carmack Elon Musk dialogue.
This one ended with Elon Musk saying, "Hey, if you want to work on rockets, you know where to find me."
Did he say that?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
I missed that.
What do they think about poaching?
That's
Hold on,
great.
let me see. Let me get the exact quote because that's not exactly it.
Wow. You want to join my Avengers, John Carmack? You want to be my Bruce Banner? I'm Iron Man.
That's funny because did you see his other tweet? Elon's other tweet said, "If this works, I'm treating myself to a volcano lair."
It's time.
Yeah.
I thought that was I love that he's so self-aware.
Yeah, right.
So the video of the burn and the crash is on his Twitter feed. It's on Vine, SpaceX's Vine, because the future. Man, fucking Twitter! I can't just see a list of tweets.
Twitter's redesigning their homepage for people who signed out.
No kidding.
Great.
Trending stuff.
Well,
Also,
I'll find
SpaceX, their YouTube channel now has 4K video. 4K launches.
Really? How's the 4K video look, Norm?
Looks fantastic.
Elon Musk does not follow me. No, I'm sad. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find Carmack. Here we go. Nope. Oh, here we go. SpaceX is the plan of record for opening space at the moment. I can be emergency backup. Elon Musk says, well, if you love rockets... So, okay, the exchange started with Carmack saying, I lost hours of today to thoughts of rockets. to Musk. Musk responds, well, if you love rockets, come work on them with me at SpaceX. Carmack replies, SpaceX is the plan of record for opening space at the moment. I can be emergency backup plan D at some point in the future.
Wow.
I'm committed to VR, guys.
It's good.
It's what we need. When you were playing Quake in like 1997, did you think... Did you ever think that the guy who made Quake would be talking about rocket ships?
To Iron Man?
Yeah, to Iron Man?
No.
Jesus. Where's the suit, guys? I think that's it for news. I don't think I have anything else. So let's play some music and we'll do a really quick what we're testing before we call it a show. Norman Chan.
Yep.
Galaxy S6. This is the time for thoughts.
Fantastic phone. 2560 by 1440 screen, just like the Note 4.
Do you feel like it's overkill?
The screen definitely overkill. I did the old comparison test where you look at the 2560 by 1440 image versus 1080 image. Even less noticeable here than Note 4 because the screen is smaller.
Yeah.
As an OLED screen, this is the best OLED screen I've seen on any phone. It does have the rainbow effect, but it looks on the surface. If you compare this to an iPhone, even like the not the Plus, but the iPhone 6, I don't think you can argue that the iPhone 6 is a better screen than this.
The off-axis even looks good from over here, which is
off-axis,
cool.
right pressure up to the screen.
Yeah.
Battery so far has been really good. 12-hour days of usage. A lot of that's because of the Samsung's not using a Qualcomm processor for this one. It's using their new Exynos
Butterfly or whatever. Yeah.
But also it's a 14 nanometer process. Also wireless charging.
Well, and they're not using they don't have to have an outside battery, so a removable battery, so they can presumably put more battery inside the empty spaces of the phone.
You know, the iFixit teardown, it looks just like a removable battery.
Okay.
That's more about getting the phone thinner than previous models.
Did they say they were able to, like, did they glue this shut, or are there screws?
No screws visible.
No screws, so it's all glued.
It's all glue. No
so
screws
I bet iFixit
visible.
didn't like it very much.
They did not like it. 4 out of 10, I believe. Camera, really good so far. It has both wireless charging standards and the Samsung Fast Charge, which I guess it's just a 2 amp charge.
So does that mean you can charge at Starbucks just by putting it on the table?
Just
that's
power
cool.
Mat, yeah, Power Mat and Qi. Looks just like an iPhone, but I don't care. I mean, I'm not a lawyer.
Is that a negative?
There's a big sticker on the back that's
just the carrier stuff. I can take that off.
Okay.
It does. It says Samsung. Oh, fingerprint sensor actually works.
Really? Is it the one on the home button?
The one on the home button. No, unlike the Note 4, it's not a swiping activation.
You just press and hold?
Press it, off access.
Nice.
And
you're using that to unlock and stuff? Cool. It's a nice feature. I played One Night Ultimate Werewolf when I was in Seattle.
That's great. How did you discover this game?
So I was out, Joey and I were out with some friends, and we were at a game. So there's a game cafe, a couple of them in the Seattle area, one in Ballard and one in Bellevue, called Mox. And it's basically like a restaurant and bar on one side, and then there's a fucking awesome game store, and they have dozens of tables set up all over the place for people to play. Like, they have a whole miniature gaming section for people who play like X-Wing and who want to play tactical strategy games that need rulers and stuff like that, as well as like D&D campaign. So there's a guy who had this huge D&D campaign set up in one of the tables, and they're all like really neat kind of felt top tables.
Wow.
You can't drink in the game store, but if you go to the bar side, you can check out games from the game store and go over to the bar side and play whatever you want, basically, if they have it. And so we had a room that sat like 8 or 9 people. We were trying to figure out what to play. And so
Sounds like a big space.
It is a huge space for San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, real estate's a little less expensive up there. So this was I'm trying to think of like what a comparable, it would be like the interior space of like a huge McDonald's on an interstate someplace, to give point of reference. So we were trying to figure out what to play, ended up, everybody wanted to play Werewolf. I kind of don't like Werewolf. Like traditional traditional Werewolf, whether it's fun or not, is entirely dependent on the person who's running the game. And if the person who's running the game is good at it, it's really fun. And if the person who's running the game is not, it can be a disaster.
What do you mean good? Like follows the rules or has it funny?
Keeps it entertaining and fresh, and is good at balancing the need to force people to share information without making it too easy.
Actually moderating.
Yes, actually, like you have to have somebody who's actually moderating and is really, really good.
See, now I've also played One Night, and I didn't realize it was a spin-off of a werewolf series.
So Werewolf is just a game. It's a risk reward kind of. Like it has been around for 40 years. There's been a lot of articles written about it. I think it started as a Russian. The urban legend is that it started as a thing that the Russians used to teach their spies game theory called Mafia.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if any of that stuff's true. So there's probably an article at the Atlantic about it. One Night. The problem with Werewolf is it drags on and on and on and on and on, and you can play it with like 30 people. So if you have 30 people in a Werewolf game, it can go for all night.
That's
basically.
Too many.
It is in most cases. There's legendary Jane McGonigal run Werewolf games that have like 60 people in them that are crazy bananas. Anyway, One Night Ultimate Werewolf takes almost all of the wankery out. And basically, instead of having a situation where you repeat nights over and over and over again, and one person dies, and then it's just a process of elimination, the game forces you to give the data that you need to figure out, or at least have a pretty good idea of who the werewolf is by establishing certain roles. So instead of everybody just being villagers and there being a doctor or a healer or whatever, you have one person who can look at somebody else's card. You have one person who can look at a card on the table. You have two people who can look and know who each other are, but aren't werewolves. So there's a certain establishing of trust between, that's a construct of the game.
But they don't know who they are by the end of the night.
Not necessarily,
because some people can move cards around.
Yes. So it ended up being a really good, and there's a time limit. So we didn't have to have somebody sacrifice their evening to moderate the game because there's an app that will run it for you.
Isn't that great?
Which is a really nice touch, especially since in this case the game is set up so that basically the moderator in Real Werewolf, the moderator has to kind of know what's going on and keep up on it and help steer a little bit, or else it's not very much fun. With this, the app basically just says, okay, these people close their eyes, these people open their eyes, these people close their eyes, these people open their eyes.
The one thing that does require is an honor code, because at night you can't cheat.
If you're going to play with werewolves who are cheating, there's nothing you can do to solve that problem. Like, just don't play with people who you can't cheat at werewolf.
Right.
It ruins the game.
What's interesting I found, though, is that during the daytime, during the period where you're supposed to tease out who's who, you can lie.
Oh, you have to lie,
right?
You have to aggressively lie.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's about lying within the constraints of the game,
right.
I guess. I had never played the One Night variant before, and it is a spectacularly better experience for most people, I think.
It's only one night that you play?
So you said, yeah. So normally in Werewolf, you play a night, somebody dies, then everybody has to suss it out. Then the next night, then everybody closes their eyes, go to sleep, and then the next night somebody else dies, and you have to figure it out. And it can go for 10 or 20 rounds sometimes, right?
And it scales from, I want to say, 4 people to like 10 people or 12 people.
Yeah, and I think there's expansions that you can go up to more. It would be good for your board game crew.
We do, we do Werewolf every time, and we do like 15 people.
One night?
No. It's regular Werewolf with characters, lots of characters.
So the nice thing about this is instead of having one regular Werewolf where you'll get one of those games in, you can play 5 because like we were playing 6-7 minute rounds with 8 people. And it goes really fast, but it has the same appeal of a good werewolf game. And we only had 2 that were busted. And when they were busted, it was pretty hysterical. So
the app is kind of tweakable too. So you can have a female narrator, male, different background sounds, and it scales depending on how many players you have.
If you're going to play with the app, I encourage you to bring like a Bluetooth speaker or a little external speaker, because in the loud cafe, we weren't able to hear anything.
Oh, yeah.
It was a little tough to hear. But Mox, if you're in Seattle, you should check out Mox. I was shocked at how full that place was. And their board game store side was also really nicely curated. Like they had good sections for like German style games you can play with your kids. They had 2-player games. They had like role playing, like they were very knowledgeable and very helpful. And the food and beer were good too. So like highly recommend that place. It was super cool.
I have a related test.
Okay.
I went to Gamescape on Divisadero here in San Francisco, which is our board game shop.
I like Gamescape.
They have a little board game playing section too, but we went to get some family games because my family needs some family time in order to bond, because we are combating with each other all the other times. So we went there. Peter picked up, my son, he picked up that game, which I'd never even heard of. He thought it looked cool. We ended up loving it, but we also picked up Catan Jr.
Oh.
Now, Settlers of Catan is, I think of it as like the Monopoly of modern board games, where it's the standard, everybody's played it, but it's also a bit complicated for kindergartners.
Yeah.
And I wanted my whole family to be able to play.
You have to be able to do some statistical breakdowns and stuff like that if you want to be successful at Catan.
Is it Catan?
Either way.
So Catan Jr. Was designed by the designer of Catan's family.
Hans Tuber.
Okay, so I think he and his son got together and designed it for kids, and it's surprisingly similar. So there's almost all the same aspects to it. There's 5 resources. There are still villages and roads, except now they're hideouts and pirate ships, and you play the roles of pirate, and all of the booty, all of the resources are pirate themed. And there's also cards that you can buy, and
Klaus Tuber. Sorry,
you trade your resources for. You can trade them for these cards, which give you these mystery awards, and there's all these other things, but. So what they take away is you always start in the same spots. That takes out that complexity. You do not mix the tiles up, so that's always the same board. But it's a lot easier to get started, and since they assign the starting points, it's pretty well balanced. And I highly recommend it. My 5-year-old just nails it. She's won a game. She knows every rule.
That's good.
And it's incredible, given that I thought she was capable of a little bit more than Candyland. She's got all these rules, so it's really great for kids if you have a family.
That's awesome. I'm not going to talk about coffee stuff this week. We'll talk about that as we post the videos. Do you want to talk about the A7 too, or you want to hold that for next week?
Let's hold that off. We're running out of time.
Yeah, the Werewolf. I went and bought a copy of Werewolf immediately. The One Night Ultimate Werewolf after that because it seems good. We should get the families together and play. Are you playing with the kids?
Oh, they love it.
Did you have to establish rules about when it's okay to lie and when it's not okay to lie?
Yes, and because I was so new to this and I read on the box that there's a lying element to it, I thought you were allowed to peek. I thought you were allowed to pretend during the night.
No, if you peek, it breaks the whole thing.
After our first round, I understood.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we'd love to do that. Okay. Yeah.
And on that note, I think we'll call it this week. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back next Thursday rather, with another episode of This Is Only a Test. We have new podcasts. There's a new episode of Creature Geek on the site right now. We should, if everything goes well, have a new bunch of dads on Friday. So the Friday podcasts are a thing now. If you want to subscribe to those podcasts, you can go to tested.com/podcast, pull down the thing, and it'll let you choose. I think somebody bought a bunch of dads.com and pointed it to the bunch of dads page. So you can do that as well. And everything's on iTunes. Everything's around to find. Norman Chan, Jeremy Williams, thank you guys for coming by.
Cheers.
And today's outro comes to us from Evading Fate. Here it is. Hi there, I didn't see you. Tested. This Exacto is really gross after the thing we did with Frank that's not been on the site yet. That was very specific.